Good evening, council. May I have a mover and seconder to call our meeting to order? Councilors Fisher and Moore, that the regular meeting of the Township of Springwater Council of December 7th, 2022 come to order at 6:30 p.m. All those in favor? And that is carried. Council, are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest this evening? And seeing none, I will now call upon Rudy Mack to present his delegation regarding the creation of the RCAF Parquet at 732 Dunlop Street West for the 100th anniversary of the RCAF. And if you'd like to join us at the microphones here.
And thank you for having me here. With me today is Colonel Bill Sargent, who is the current president of the 441 Wing Association. And also Dr. Andrew Gregory, who is the director of the Baseboard and Museums. Maybe the next slide, please. Okay. I think you've all had a chance to maybe read this, and since I only have 45 minutes, I'll try to be brief. From 1978 to 2008, the RCAF 441 Wing had a home base at 732 Dunlop Street. And it's the building that was on Dunlop Street just before Bradford Greenhouses. And over the years, the veterans, their families, the public used the premises as a place of fellowship with other veterans, Boy Scout meetings, raising money for charities, turkey shoots, which I originally thought was really shooting turkeys, but it's not. Meetings and ceremonies, dinners and weddings. The rich history of the veterans extended beyond their years of service to the building. And they also built a 50-unit affordable housing project called Ad Astra Place on Ann Street and Edgehill Drive in Barrie. And they also sponsor the Royal Canadian Air Cadet Squadrons and the Boy Scout group. So they've been a very active wing since they've retired, and we're in that and work from that building. If I can have the next slide, please. You'll remember that what the building looks like on the left. Basically everybody kind of remembers the building. I myself, would drive back and forth between Barrie and Angus like twice a week to play hockey, and you'd always remember the aircraft there. That was a T-33 Midnight jet that was there. And there's a picture on the pictures that you see there are from 2008 when the 441 Wing was sold the building. And then if I can go to the next slide, please. In March of this year, we were able to purchase the building. And we've been able to do some renovations on the building. The building had fallen into some disrepair, but since 2008, it was in ownership by a couple of brothers who basically did nothing inside the building. So a lot of the inside of the building was exactly as it was when 441 had left. So, you have a lot of the features of the display cases, which still has some trophies in it, some of the bar areas and some of the other features that were in the building that were kind of link it right back to the time of 2008. And we kept getting workers inside the building that said, "Oh, I remember coming here for my first beer. I remember coming here for this event or that one for Boy Scouts." And many, and it kind of really occurred to me, I says, well, we have these display cases and they're here. We should do something with them and try to sort of preserve a little bit more of this history. If I can get the next slide, please. So I contacted Bill Sargent, and we talked about maybe getting some photographs to put inside the building, and filling up the display cases that were still there, and so that we can preserve a lot of the history from 441 and from the RCAF. So he took it back to 441. They were very enthusiastic and said they would really willing to help. And then I got introduced to Dr. Gregory. And after we met Dr. Gregory, he came back and he said, well, he says, why don't we try to put back the jet that was there, or not the same jet, but a similar jet, a T-33 trainer. We can possibly get it and put it back. And that evolved into a whole lot of more meetings, and the whole concept of doing like our parquet for the 100th anniversary of the RCAF, which would be April the 1st, 2024. So yeah, if I can get the next slide, please. So when we started working on the concept of this, of possibly incorporating the T-33 jet on the ground, the whole idea was to make it into a really educational experience, where especially for kids, school groups, anybody who came along, that they would get a lot out of this parquet. And the plane wouldn't be up on a pedestal, it would be on the ground, so they could actually go and touch it, they could feel it, they could walk around it. So it would incorporate a walking path, a winding walking path, and the jet that they could walk around. It would have a flagpole type of thing with the RCAF flag and the Canadian flag, the typical roundel and flowers down and many plants type of thing. And then we would have educational pedestals. And we're thinking of, we came up with some concept of some educational pedestals that would be around the site. We can go to the next slides. I'll just quickly run through some of these possibilities. One would have to be of the history of Camp Borden. That's where the RCF started. And, the more I did not, when I started this whole project, I didn't know a whole lot. I've been to Borden many times, worked there, and I've, like most people, you have a general history of what Base Borden was. Until I started researching history, I had no idea. But yeah, so from 1917, they had upwards of 40,000 people in Base Borden working in the 1950s and 60s, or 50s and 60s. And starting out from the sand pit that it was in 1917 when they formed Base Borden. But this was the birthplace of the RCAF, the very first one. The Commonwealth training programs for the British, New Zealand, and Australians was right here in Borden. So there's a tremendous history in Borden. And so one of the plaques that we would do would have to be on Base Borden. And there's a great connection between Barrie and Borden and Springwater and the whole county. Then the next slide. And something else I didn't realize too was the tremendous history we have in the Canadian aviation industry, especially as it relates to development of aircraft and building of aircraft. Thunder Bay was a major place in Canada where aircraft were built. And, Submalton and everywhere across Canada, it's just incredible. So adding a plaque for that basically will teach us the fact that right up until the mid-60s, we were a major leading aircraft designer and builder in the world. Next slide, please. You can't do that. You can't build this without having a slide on the liberation of Europe. It kind of speaks to itself. Next one, please. This particular slide here, it actually tells you some of the things that we did at Borden and what Borden was involved in terms of training of pilots, navigation bombers, navigation people, and air gunners. And it was certainly a major center for the entire Commonwealth. It was a training center for the entire Commonwealth. Next slide, please. This one here is, I just pulled that one picture out because this one personally means something fairly significant to me. My parents were in Arnhem during the war. And I think of my mother at this point now, because they were teenagers at the time of the war. And I look at that and, Operation Market Garden and some of the things that I do remember from that time when they would tell me, when they would talk at all about any of this, And I would think, yeah, you know, that they talked about the fact that they remember the Market Bar Garden thing getting and what that meant to them. And if you look at that, I think it's a RCAF Lancaster flying overhead. Next slide, please. You would probably do one for the what the RCAF has done, not only in wartime, but also in peacetime, and what it does with NATO and currently. Next one. The aeronautical teams. That's an interesting slide to have put in because it talks about the Red Knight was one of the major aeronautical teams in the 1960s. But, you know, you can see that even in the 1927, where you had, they had aeronautical teams, flying teams in the 27s, and they're going all the way up to the snowbirds that they still have today. Various different ones. So if at the base, they have one of the Stensonaires in their museum or at the base from the 1967s. And you still, and they have snowbirds around in various places still. Next one, please. And of course, it's really important to bring in the fact that when you talk about the history of the RCAF and what it meant and means to Simcoe County and people in Simcoe County, it's the people of Simcoe County were part of the 441. They were part of the RCAF. They were part in many, many aspects of all of this incredible military history. And we want a place to be able to remember that for the local families and local family histories, and a place for them to show that. Can I have the next slide, please?
Mr. Mack, we're almost over time here, so
Okay, we're almost, I think, 2 slides.
to your 45 minutes, no.
Okay, thanks. Oh yeah, so it's basically, yeah, we can do a photo wall. They have one at Peacekeepers Park. That's a possibility to put in there as well. Next slide. Okay, we can maybe just kind of hit the space bar there. Okay, in order to acquire the aircraft for the park, the request has to come from a Crown agency. It can't come from me. It can't come from even 441 Wing Association, because it's an association. It's not a Crown agency. So we would need the support of Springwater Township in order to make the official request from Borden to acquire the aircraft to be as part of the display. As the project evolved, the second part of it is, as we build this parkette, it's my desire to have as a permanent fixture, a permanent structure, something that would be permanently accessible to the public. So as such, I would like to be able to take the land that it sits on and donate that land to Springwater Township to make it a permanent. So next one, please. The cost of acquiring and acquiring all the and building the park, basically, it simply is we will bear the cost of building the park and putting it together, bringing the aircraft in, and the operating cost of that. So we're not asking for any financial assistance from any party, from any third party at all. Next one, please. Okay, so our question is at Springwater here is, would the Township of Springwater Council be willing to be the Crown agency for accepting a T-33 aircraft on loan from the Department of National Defense? And would the Township of Springwater Council accept the Nation of Land RCAF anniversary parkette, the donation of the land? And we kind of add in that this could become a significant educational attraction in the city or in the township, in the Springwater Township, in that particular location. And that's kind of what we're after as well. So it's the educational aspect of that. Next slide, please. Oh, yeah, I think this letter came in today. It was just a letter of support from the wing commander at the base. the amount of support that we've even had for the concept from everywhere we've looked has been amazing. It's absolutely incredible. Next slide, please. That's it. Any questions? And we're here to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mack, for your presentation. Council, are there any questions at this time? Councillor Cabral, Deputy Mayor Cabral.
Thank you, Mayor Cogman. On through you to Mr. Mack. On the previous slide, I also noted there that the 441 is also looking at not only paying for everything to happen with the parkhead and donate the land, but also a 5-year commitment to provide security as well. Did I read that correctly?
Yeah, no, it's not that. That's not the 441. That would be our company personally would do that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And the direction council before us this evening is that we simply receive this delegation. Are there any members of council? I will first ask for a mover and seconder. Yeah, thank you, Deputy Cabral and Councillor Garwood. That the delegation from Rudy Mack regarding the creation of the RCAF parkette at 732 Dunlop Street West for the 100th anniversary of the RCAF be received. And if there is an amendment, thank you. Deputy Mayor Cabral.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. First, I'd like to actually thank you for the presentation. It's incredibly important. And I can't say just as a simple resident or as a Canadian citizen how touched I am by the offer that you've made here to Springwater Township. To retain both the history, the heritage, and pay respect to our military all in one foul swoop is incredible. And on that point, I would very much like to make an amendment that not only do we receive the presentation, but staff be directed to work with Mr. Mack and his group to see about a partnership, as Mr. Mack has asked to put that together for council and bring it back to us later for a vote.
And we would just need a seconder on that amendment. And we have Councillor Moore. And we do have the general nature of that. So we simply that staff would report back on possible partnerships moving forward. So that will be amended to move forward in that direction. And I would just need then all of council to vote. All in favor? And that has carried. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you.
Oh, my apologies. That was the amendment. So now we need to do the main motion again. So let's try that one more. And then the main motion as amended. All those in favor? And that is carried again. Thank you so much. And Deputy Mayor has asked for a comment before we do move on.
Just a comment with respect to Base Borden, especially for anybody who's watching. If you've never been there to the museums at Base Borden, I would encourage you 100% to avail yourself. They are incredible. I've been there numerous times and taken my children too. And I want to thank the good doctor for taking care of that. So hopefully we'll see you next time I pay a visit. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And council, we are now moving on to question period. There are no questions submitted. However, if members of the public did want an opportunity to ask questions, they are permitted to do so. And seeing that there are no questions. May I have a mover and seconder to approve the minutes of council? Councillors Thompson and Fisher. That the minutes of council listed herein be approved as presented, items 1 through 7. Are there any questions on these minutes? And seeing none, all those in favor? That is carried. May I have a mover and seconder to receive the minutes of boards and committees and organizations? Deputy Cabral, Councillor Garwood, that the minutes and boards of the committees and other organizations listed herein be received for information. And we have 2, the Heritage Advisory Committee meeting and the NVCA Board of Directors meeting. Are there any questions on either of these? And seeing none, all those in favor? And that has carried. Moving on to number 6, council and committee board appointments. May I have a mover and seconder This is going to be long, so bear with me as we go through each of these individually. May I have a mover and seconder to approve the appointment to the Nottawasaga Conservation Authority Board of Directors? And looking for a mover and seconder, Councilors Thompson and Alexander, that the council of the Township of Springwater does hereby appoint the following member of council to the Nottawasaga Valley Conservation Authority to the Board of Directors, Mayor Coughlin. Are there any questions or discussion on this? And seeing none, all in favor? And carrying on, may I have a mover and seconder to approve the appointment to the Severn Sound Environmental Association Board of Directors? Deputy Cabral, Councillor Moore, that the council of the Township of Springwater does hereby appoint the following member of council to the Severn Sound Environmental Association Board of Directors, Councillor Alexander. Are there any questions or concern from members of council? And seeing none, all those in favor? That is carried. May I have a mover and seconder to approve the appointment to the Barrie and Area Physician Recruitment? Councillors Fisher and Moore, that the council of the Township of Springwater hereby appoint the following member of the council to the Barrie and Area Physician Recruitment, Councillor Moore. Are there any questions on this? Seeing none. All in favor? Thank you. That is carried. May I have a mover and seconder to approve the appointment to the South Georgian Bay Physician Recruitment? Councillors Garwood and Deputy Mayor Cabral, that the council of the Township of Springwater hereby appoint the following member of council to the South Georgian Bay Physician Recruitment, Deputy Mayor Cabral. Are there any discussion or questions? And seeing none, all in favor? And that has carried. May I have a mover and seconder to approve the appointment for the alternate county councillor member? Councillor Fisher and Deputy Mayor Cabral, that the council of the Township of the Springwater does hereby appoint the following member of council as county council alternate member, Councillor Moore, and that the appointment bylaw be presented at the December 21st, 2022 regular meeting for adoption and to be forwarded to the County of Simcoe. Are there any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried. And now the long one. May I have a mover and seconder to approve the appointments to the committees and boards of council? Councillor Fisher, Councillor Alexander, that the council of the Township of Springwater hereby confirms the following council appointments and the listed committees and boards of council. Agricultural Advisory Committee, Councillor Fisher. Cultural and Heritage Advisory Committee, Councillor Garwood. Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee, Councillor Garwood. Elmville BIA, Councillor Garwood. Springwater Public Library Board, Councillor Thompson. Springwater Sports Heritage, Councillor Fisher. Anton Mills CRA, Councillor Thompson. Grenfell CRA, Councillor Moore. Hillsdale CRA, Councillor Alexander. Midhurst CRA, Councillor Fisher. Minising CRA, Councillor Thompson. Phelpston CRA, Councillor Alexander. Are there any questions or discussion on this motion? And seeing none, all in favor? That is carried. Moving on to item 7, action reports. May I have a mover and seconder to approve the action reports? Deputy Mayor Cabral and Councillor Garwood. Oh, sorry, this needs to get them on the table if I can. Or we can do that now if you want. The mover and seconder, we have that. Does council want to pull any of the items to have separate discussion? Yes, Councillor Deputy.
Question on 7.3, and I'd like to pull
And you.
7.7.
Yeah, so the microphone again. So that was 7.3.
7.3 question
Yeah.
and 7.7 award of tandem truck.
Okay, thank you. Are there any others, council? We'll move forward with the question on 7.3 then, so we can.
Yep, thank you, Mayor Coughlin, and through you to Chief Kirk. I guess my question here is not per se with the agreements themselves. I just with respect to the aerial apparatus, township is looking to acquire our own aerial apparatus, and I'm just wondering whether or not that would have any future impact on the agreements.
Thank you, Deputy. Through you to Chief Kirk.
Through you, Mayor Coughlin, to Deputy Mayor Cabral. Yes, that would have an impact on the one portion of the automatic aid agreement. And as such, I've negotiated a monthly fee for that aerial apparatus.
Thank you. Any other questions from council? So seeing none, that action item report 7.2 through 7.7, with the exception of 7.7, that recommendations contained therein be approved as presented. All those in favor? And that has carried. And at this point, we would need a a mover and seconder for item 7.7, Deputy Cabral, Councillor Moore. And we can then discuss that. And back to you, Deputy.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. I just want to actually make a bit of an amendment with respect to this particular item in the sense that it's talking about purchasing this vehicle, and it's substantially over budget. Of course, there's reasons for why that's happened. However, I do want to make reference to the fact that the other vehicles won't be replaced until this one. They'll remain in service until this one comes in. I would just like it to be noted that the funds that are realized from the sale or disposition of the vehicle that this one will be replacing, that those funds go back into the tax stabilization fund.
Thank you, Deputy. And then, so maybe through you to CO Schmidt, is there any concern with that being added?
Through you, Mayor Coughlin, to members of council, typically when we have surplus assets, the funds do get placed in a capital reserve, but to the deputy mayor's comments, if council so chooses that these funds are reimbursed to the tax rate stabilization reserve, I don't see any reasons why we wouldn't consider that.
Thank you. And I guess to me, that would be a friendly amendment. I think it doesn't change the direction of that. And I'll look to the clerk for the friendly amendment on that. So since there is no change, we can move forward as amended. So council, we will be moving and seconding the resolution that's in front of us and as amended, so that I can flip to your screen for that and add that the funds that are received from the sale or disposition of the current vehicle be allocated to the tax stabilization fund. All right, and I need a mover and seconder for that, Deputy Cabral and Councillor Alexander, and therefore all in favor. And that has carried. And now on to action reports, and I will get a mover and seconder to put these on the floor. Deputy Cabral and Councillor Alexander, that the report from the planning technician on the security treasurer regarding the road naming of SU 2017-002 Sunrise Acquisitions Elmville Inc. Oh. I didn't flip through. I didn't read where it says only read if pulled. Moving on. Thank you. I'm still new. All right, on to number 8. May I have a mover and seconder for the information reports, please? And that would be Deputy Cabral and Councillor Garwood, that the reports items listed here and be received for information. Items 1 is ZB 2022-017 1922 Penetang Road. Number 2, OP 2022-002 ZB-002-016 Lewis Pit Expansion, and number 3, Q3 Procurement Summary. Does council wish to have comment or have any of these pulled? And seeing none, all in favor? And that has carried. And at this point, I would ask for GM Ramdeo if there is an update on our developments.
Good evening, Mayor Coughlin, Deputy Mayor Cabral, members of council. Yes, I do have a short update. The first homeowners of the mixed subdivision have actually taken possession of their houses. As of today, it's 6, and I anticipate 20 closings by the end of next week. After that, there will be a pause until February of 2023 before closings recommence. To help these homeowners get settled into the community, staff have prepared brochures for them, welcome packages, which include brochures on the county, the township, nearby services, attractions, and likewise. We plan to distribute those to them next week. Also around that area, we did receive a complaint from a resident adjacent to the external servicing construction zone. And our development engineering coordinator and the developer are actually working with that homeowner to address the concern. It was pertaining to their well. Over on the east side of Bayfield at the Midhurst Heights subdivision, that developer is finishing the site preparation works for the season, and they do plan to shutter that site later this month and return in the spring. And that brings me to the end of this evening's update. Thank you.
Thank you, GM Ramdeo. And there are no county updates at this time. Municipal updates, Council? Councillor Garwood?
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. Just a few items to mention, a couple community events that have recently occurred and will be occurring. Elmvale hosted their Christmas tree lighting on December the 2nd, hosted by the Elmvale Maple Syrup Committee. There was definitely over 100 folks that showed up, which was fantastic. Deputy Mayor Cabral and Councillor Fisher also attended for the evening, and we had a great time. So it was very nice. I just wanted to also thank specifically all the community partners that made it happen. Also, another community event that occurred last weekend on December the 4th was the Elmvale Santa Claus Parade hosted by the Elmvale Lions Club. Again, various council members showed up, and it was nice to see the streets filled with residents celebrating the holiday season. And then another event upcoming in Elmvale is the sleigh ride in the village, which is taking place on December the 9th and the community hall parking lot area. There'll be lots of activities from 6 to 9 p.m. So those are all positive things. And I did want to close specifically and make mention that as of December the 5th, Dr. Harlos's practice in Elmvale has unfortunately closed. So we no longer have a doctor in Elmvale. Thank you.
You should have started with that and ended like the high note. And Councillor Alexander, you had yours?
Yes, I just wanted to, for a community update, the Phelpston Community Recreation Association will be doing their Christmas wagon ride again. It's this Friday, unfortunately, from 6 to 8 p.m. So that's a decorated wagon. It goes through to see all the lights through Phelpston. And then we meet up back at the hall for hot chocolate and hot dogs and crafts for the kids.
Thank you. Any other members? And Councillor Thompson, please.
Just like to update the Menacing CRA is having their tractor parade this Friday night. And this weekend also is Christmas in the village of Anton Mills. Would love to see all the residents of Springwater come and support and enjoy beautiful Anton Mills.
Thank you. Anyone else? Oh, over to Deputy Mayor Cabral, please.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank those folks that came out to the Hillsdale tree lighting. That was on December the 3rd. And I did bring greetings from Councillor Alexander, who unfortunately wasn't able to be there, and also for the mayor and the rest of council and Springwater as a whole. So it was well attended, I think, for Hillsdale. They have a tree that's obviously going to grow a lot taller as years progress, but let me tell you that they had a wonderful time, and it was a good night for it too. The wind had died down.
Councillor Fisher?
On December 3rd, we had the Midhurst tree lighting, and it was attended by Councillor Garwood and our Deputy Mayor Cabral. Great evening, a little bit windy, a little bit cold, as I'm sure many of you can attest to, but it was a nice opportunity for us to showcase our brand new tree. So I thank everyone who attended and the MCRA for putting it on.
Anything further? I also wanted to acknowledge the CP holiday train that did come through. Very well attended, despite the weather again. Thank you to all those who did come out. I also wanted to acknowledge and mention that there was a shuttle bus provided for residents from this facility to the area, and that was sponsored by Geranium. So I thought that was worth mentioning as well. And at this point, we'll move on to notices of motion, to which I will pass the chair to Deputy Cabral. And I'll
Thank you. I guess we'll be looking for a seconder for a notice of motion regarding speed signs and partnerships with community groups. Presented by Mayor Coughlin. Do I have someone? Okay, Matt Garwood, Councillor Garwood, and Councillor Thompson is a seconder. The motion, whereas residents, community groups and stakeholders prioritize safety, traffic safety and wish to contribute to enhancing community safety. Therefore, be it resolved, the council hereby directs staff to prepare a report on a pilot project that would allow community groups and stakeholders to purchase digital speed signs to enhance community safety. Any member of council have any questions or comments, or maybe we'll hold on that and let Mayor Coughlin speak to it first. Sorry.
Thank you, and through you, Deputy Mayor. This actually came forward as a resident's request. And I just think it's a neat initiative. I think that if we can put something in place, my concern is that we don't need to have one on every street at every corner, and the maintenance on that and just all the logistics behind it. So I have been speaking with GM Ramdeo about this. So this would basically just be asking staff for a pilot project, information about that to come back to council for us to really hammer down on the details that would take place. You remember recently there was a community stakeholder group that came forward to have an AED machine placed in their community park. So they did work with staff and council to put that in place, but it was fundraised for. So we now have the maintenance of it and the cost borne to the municipality, but there was no capital investment. So this program would be something like that. It could be anything from a group of neighbors that come together to make it happen, or a stakeholder in the community. And it could be a sign that says your community safety is, important to Divenboard and Hollage, things like that, so that it allows partnerships in the community. So that was the intent of this motion, and I'd be happy to address any specific questions.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. Just a question. How many of these signs do we currently have in the community, and how are they working?
I guess I would be looking to Director or Manager Ramdeo to bring us up to speed on that.
Through you, Deputy Mayor Cabral, to Councillor Thompson. We do have, I believe it's 5 we own currently, of which 4 are in good working condition, and we've got another one on order. So that's how many. These are the digital ones. That's the one we've got right now.
Thank you, Manager Ramdeo. Follow on.
Yeah, I noticed that when I was out canvassing, there was one that wasn't working, and that it'd been like 3 months that it wasn't working, I think. And so just a question, is there a maintenance problem with these signs? And what is the cost for that maintenance?
Manager Ramdeo.
Sorry, Deputy Mayor Cabral, through you to Councillor Thompson. Yes, we've got them made by 2 separate manufacturers. There is the earlier ones that we do have. Yes, they do have. That's the one we're talking about. We have not been able to repair it, so to speak. The other ones that we've been sourcing are locally sourced, and those we're able to maintain them, but we haven't had issues with those as of this point in time. So,
Thank you.
Sorry, I couldn't answer.
Follow on, Councillor Thompson. Go ahead.
One thing,
Deputy Mayor to GM Ramdeo. So what is the average cost of one of these units? And so do we have to replace the one that's broken, or can we repair it?
Manager Ramdeo.
Through you, Deputy Mayor Cabral, to Councillor Thompson. Average cost is about $3,500 plus taxes. The one that is not working, likely we will have to replace it, and as we have not been able to repair it.
Councillor Moore.
Thank you, through you, Deputy Cabral, to Manager Ramdeo. I think that when we last spoke about speeding concerns, there was a review of other initiatives on controlling speeding. I wonder if we could incorporate that into the staff report, should this go forward, a review of other methods and ideologies that you were looking at.
Manager Ramdale?
Through Deputy Mayor Cabral to Councillor Moore. Yes, we most definitely, as part of any report that we bring to council, review other options that might be available for traffic calming, speed concerns. As we do go forward, yes, we can do that. Right? We've been internally as staff, we've been discussing many of them, so we can just formalize that into a report to come.
Councillor Thompson?
I'm not sure who to, but through Deputy Mayor Cabral. So Horseshoe Valley Road is a county road, so would we have authority to allow our residents to put one of these signs on that, or would we need permission from Simcoe County?
Road jurisdiction, I'm kind of thinking that's going to go back to Manager Ramdale.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Cabral. Through you to Councillor Thompson. No, I believe we will have to work with Simcoe County on that one, as it is their roadway, their jurisdiction. And Deputy Mayor Cabral, if you could permit me one follow-on with Councillor Thompson. On the one on Finley Mill that is not working, it's the electronics that went bad. So that's not replaceable.
Thank you. Any further questions, comments? Councillor Fisher?
Is just to understand this, the money for the unit would be coming from the residents, community groups and stakeholders, correct? Through you, Deputy Cabral, to the mayor.
That would be the intent.
Follow on. Would they then have say in the geographical location where it would go?
Thank you. And through you, yes, the purpose of this is not to produce or purchase more of our temporary. This would be a permanent fixture approved by council and staff. I keep forgetting that I can actually just turn and look to you. I'm like looking at you there through there.
Yeah.
But no, this would just be so that we do have areas of concern. So they would choose the location. It would be approved by staff. It would be signed in partnership with whoever it was, and it would be a permanent fixture. GM Ramdeo did indicate that there is a shelf life on these, so there would have to be what happens once it is no longer working after 5 years. Who's then responsible? So there is a lot of information that still needs to be discussed and ironed out. But this is just getting the ball rolling on. I think it's a good initiative, and hopefully it would be one that, you know, we can't have one coming up every meeting of council, but if we were to approve 2 a year, or however it would be, one per ward, or whichever we decide, but just basically a partnership to enhance community safety.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. Any other comments or questions with respect to this? I have a couple of comments. I think on the surface, it looks wonderful. However, I don't really put it in the same league as the defibrillators. They were on township property at key locations where recreational activities would be taking place. And they are life-saving measurements or measures that were there. The problem I see with this particular initiative when we're reaching out to the community for funding is that Springwater Township has a diverse residential base. And based on that, there's going to be some communities that would love to have a sign, but simply do not have the wherewithal to do the fundraising to put one in place. Examples might be, I can think of one off the top of my head, would be over on the 4th, Hamilville in, I believe that's Ward 2 or 3, Ward 3. Ward 2. There's a handful of folks there, but we know that speeding in that particular area above the 60K that it drops down to from 80 is a problem. So I just envision some difficulty with, some residential areas that have a significant income base, being able to purchase these signs and fund them, and other areas of Springwater where, let's just face it, the economic graphics are drastically different, and they would not be able to purchase the same sign. And I'm wondering if this isn't simply a township responsibility, and how that would work into whatever proposals staff might come back with. I just see that as a bit of a big roadblock for me when we have some communities that can definitely do it and take advantage of it, and others that I know are going to struggle to do it. So that would be how to accomplish that. Any further comments on this? Oh, Councillor Alexander.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Cabral. Further to what you were saying, Mike, I don't know who this question would go to, but I'm trying to understand the difference of something that the township is responsible for versus something now we're putting out to the community and saying, okay, you can fundraise for it. Like, I don't understand where those lines are drawn and I don't know if that's just a general question or where that should go through to.
I don't know. I'm kind of thinking maybe CEO Schmidt might be able to shed some light on that distinction.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Cabral, through you to Councillor Alexander. I think Councillor Alexander, in this particular case, I think community safety, from my perspective, is a responsibility of the municipality. And I would somewhat maybe agree with Deputy Mayor Cabral's comments that, there is a potential concern there that some communities may be left out that might not be able to fundraise for these types of things. So from my perspective, I think if community safety is our responsibility and there's requests for these types of signs within various areas of the municipality, then the township ought to be responsible for arranging, either acquiring and or relocating our existing digital signs to those areas to ensure that community safety is at the forefront. So that would be my comment at this stage.
Follow on? No, thank you. Just a question to Director Ramdeo. Would it be possible if this proposal does go forward and a staff report is generated, would there be policy in place that would dictate where these signs would be appropriate? Or would we simply be leaving it up to the community members that raised funds to purchase the sign?
Yes, Deputy Mayor Cabral and all of council. That is something I would have to give more thought to, and I would work with the community. There are some areas where it wouldn't be appropriate just from a sightlines perspective. So we would establish that those areas, they won't be able to go there. And then work with the community in terms of the other areas. It is something I would have to work with to come up with a policy on, yes, a guideline.
Thank you, Manager Ramdale. I'm at a bit of a loss here. I'm going to have to pass the chair because I'd like to make a friendly amendment. Can I pass the chair to Councillor Moore, please?
Thank you. So council, are there any amendments? Deputy Mayor Cabral.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. I would like to make a friendly amendment that this not necessarily be approved as a pilot project, but that this motion move forward and it be a report prepared by staff on the feasibility of implementing a pilot project, and have that report come back to staff at a later date, or come back to council at a later date for approval or not approval.
Sorry, Mayor Coughlin.
And my apologies for jumping in before a seconder, but that is actually the precise intent of this. is not to have a pilot, it's just a report to come back on the feasibility of it.
Okay, then I apologize. I was reading that, the way it reads, it looks like a pilot project is going to come back.
And through you, Chair Moore, my apologies. No, and then hereby direct staff to prepare a report on a pilot project.
Well, thank you. I still don't like to see pilot project in there. I'd rather see a report come back to council regarding the feasibility of implementing a program where communities would fundraise for traffic radar signs. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Chair Moore, and through you to Councillor Cabral. So if I was to change the word pilot project to the word program, that would suffice?
Program feasibility.
And I'm amendable, that's fine.
Thank you. So as it is the mayor who has submitted the motion, just a friendly amendment would be required. There would be no official amendment. So I've removed the words pilot program and put a feasibility program. Does that encapsulate what you're looking for? Yeah.
Thank you. And I guess we will have a vote on the amendment. No vote needed on the main motion as presented by Clerk Ainsworth.
Thank you through the chair. So the motion would read, whereas residents, community groups and stakeholders prioritize traffic safety and wish to contribute to enhancing community safety. Therefore, be it resolved that council hereby directs staff to prepare a report on a feasibility program that would allow community groups and stakeholders to purchase digital speed signs to enhance community safety.
We'll take a vote. All those in favor? Carried. I will now turn the chair back over to Councillor. No.
My apologies,
I
and
can't give it to you.
no, and that was the purpose. So when we spoke earlier about the decorum, so if you do have an amendment
I do not.
to the next, so then you are able to
Okay, good.
continue chairing. Thank you.
Thank you. Just need a bit of clarification there. We have another notice of motion. Notice of motion regarding, can I get someone, notice of motion, hire 2 new permanent full-time equipment operators presented by Mayor Coughlin. May I have a seconder to get this on the floor? Councillor Thompson. Whereas Township of Springwater residents have come to expect a certain level of service regarding snow clearing on municipal roadways, and whereas Springwater's population has grown by almost 20% over the past 10 years with continued growth expected, and whereas staff complement in the township's roads and fleet department has remained fairly constant over the past 10 years, therefore be it resolved that council hereby authorizes staff to hire 2 new permanent full-time equipment operators effective immediately for the roads and fleet department. Are there any questions or comments? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Mayor Coughlin.
Thank you. And through you, yes, brought this forward. As we are all aware, we've only had one major winter event. And I did have concerns about the level of service that was being brought to my attention by residents. Spoke with staff about it, and I was assured that during the regular budget process, they would be coming forward as they have identified the need for 2 new full-time permanent operators. However, understanding that budget would be completed just probably as the snow was melting and the grass was becoming green, I felt that this is something that we can deal with today. So while this is a notice of motion and typically new positions do come through during budget process as program changes or new hires, I felt that it was needed our attention now rather than later. So that is that, and I'm happy to answer any questions. I have reached out to most members of council to discuss it, but I'm happy to keep, yes.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. Are there any questions or comments regarding this motion?
Couple of questions. Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Moore, go ahead.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Cabral. First question is, if this is referring to the snow event that we had recently, did we meet the minimum standard of service? And who can I ask that to? Maybe CAO Schmidt or Manager Ramdale?
Manager Ramdale?
Yes, Deputy Mayor Cabral, through you to Councillor Moore. Yes, we did meet the minimum maintenance standard set by the province, which is to clear local roads within 24 hours of the event, of the end of the event.
Follow on?
Thank you. So my follow-on is it is highly unusual to bring this to council like this. And so is there an urgent sense? And I would have thought that had there been an urgent request by staff, that we would have dealt with this maybe in a closed session meeting or had been presented by staff to say that we are in a critical situation. So I think that in this case, for me, I would prefer to wait the 6 weeks till budget so that we can look at the program changes incorporated into the budget and see what kind of tax implication they will have to our residents. I don't know at this time what else is going to be presented in the budget as program changes. And so I think that it is slightly unfair to the other departments who may be told no because of these hires. So I prefer to wait 6 weeks.
Any other comments from council members? Councillor Garwood?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Cabral. Through you to General Manager Ramdeo. In the motion, it specifically indicates that the township's road and fleet department has remained fairly consistent over the past 10 years. Can you please elaborate on fairly consistent?
Manager Ramdale?
Yeah, through you, Deputy Mayor Cabral to Councillor Garwood. In 2010, which is the information that I do have, the earliest information I have, we had 10 frontline equipment operators, truck drivers, 2 lead hands, 2 supervisors. 2014, that remained the same. Today, we are still at 10 frontline, permanent frontline staff, 2 lead hands, 1 supervisor. So that's where we are today, yes. So frontline staff remain constant over that period.
Follow on, Councillor Garwood?
Yes, please. Through you, Deputy Mayor Cabral to General Manager Ramdale. So you're saying, just to clarify, that with the population growth of Springwater over the past 12 years by 20%, our frontline staff has remained, in regards to this aspect, neutral. Is that correct?
Through you, Deputy Mayor Cabral to Councillor Garwood. Yes, that is correct.
Mayor Coughlin?
Thank you, Deputy. Oh, my apologies. As a follow-on to Councillor Garwood, not only the 20% population growth, GM Ramdale, what increase to our roads, basically all the subdivisions that have come on kilometer wise, or even gravel conversion, have also contributed to the routes that we have to plow?
Through you, Deputy Mayor Cabral to Mayor Coughlin. We have added approximately 45 kilometers of roadway in that time. So we've gone from just over 400 kilometers of roadway that we plow whenever there's an event to 452 kilometers of roadway. So there's been that increase.
Follow on?
Well, I can keep going, but if there's other members, that I'm fine with that as well.
Okay. Councillor Alexander?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Cabral. My question would be either to General Manager Ramdeo or to Director Radigan, in that what is the cost, like the total cost of each of these positions to be added? And then I have a follow-up. Yeah, so we'll go with that first.
Director Radigan, or I guess we'll go to Director Radigan first.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Cabral, and through you to Councillor Alexander. The cost of one road and fleet equipment operator is, with salaries and benefits, is $77,292. And that is at a rate of 12 months.
Follow on?
Yes, thank you. So I'm not sure again if this would go back to Director Radigan. My understanding from conversations with General Manager Ramdeo is that we currently have two contract positions. If I am correct in this understanding, are these two new hires replacing the new two contract positions, or are they in addition to the two contract positions?
Manager Ramdale.
Through you, Deputy Mayor Cabral, to Councillor Alexander. This would be in addition to the seasonal contract positions that we have.
Follow on?
Thank you. Can I ask what the difference is? And it's hard, I guess, if it's a contract position, but the cost of a contract position versus the cost of a full-time employee when we're looking at a seasonal job.
Manager Ramdale.
Through you, Deputy Mayor Cabral, to Councillor Alexander. Cost per hour, which is what would be a very appropriate analysis, is approximately the same. The difference being, so that's the labor cost. On a contract position, we do get them from a company, that's number one, who's responsible for all of the training and the WSIB and all of those aspects for that staff. The benefit of a full-time position is all of the other works that we need to do in the spring, summer, and fall. That's where it comes in.
Councillor Thompson.
That extra roadway that you said, the extra kilometers, does that include Midhurst Valley? Or is that to be added to the calculation?
When you say Midhurst Valley, just help me, please.
Carson Road, so the ones that are just taking occupancy this week.
That will be added later. So that will be added. The ones up in Anton Mills will be added later. Some of Stone Manor will be added later. So there's growth coming, yes.
Follow on, Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, so one last question. So if we do hire these two individuals, what level of improvement of service can we expect?
Through you, Deputy Mayor Cabral, to Councillor Thompson. That actually is a very difficult. What it will do, it will reduce the probability of us not having enough staff for the routes. Right now, the way we operate, the probability is high that we will not have full complement of routes, which is 13 routes. So we've got 10 full-timers, 2 lead hands, 2 contract staff to cover 13 routes. That's our full complement of routes. So there's a high probability that if it were outside of normal working hours, we won't be able to feel a full complement of trucks over there. This would improve that probability that we will be able to.
Councillor Fisher.
Through you to General Manager Rendeo. If we were to hire these two positions outside of the budget, and you were to hire them, when would you estimate their realistic start date to be?
Through you, Deputy Mayor Cabral, to Councillor Fisher. If everything works in a perfect world, most likely by the end of January, should have them. That is putting it out for ads, getting applications, closing it, interviewing. Yes, should be around then.
Follow on, Councillor Fisher.
So would it be fair to say that would be half of your season gone by the time they're hired?
Through you, Deputy Mayor Cabral, to Councillor Fisher. Half season gone, half season left. Yes.
Councillor Garwood.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Cabral. Through yourself to General Manager Ramdeo. So just to confirm here, so there's 13 routes currently within the township. We have 10 folks that can be in those trucks at any one time in theory. So that's 3 routes not being covered. And then we have those 2 lead hands that are working in those trucks. So in theory, plus there's still 1 singular route that is not covered. That in theory, if all 13 needed to be out at the same time, we would utilize that contracted staff. So hiring 2 additional positions would then allow those lead hands to not be in those trucks at that time and on other duties. Is that accurate?
That is, through you, Deputy Mayor Cabral, to Councillor Garwood, that is a reasonable statement, yes.
You're welcome. Just to recap that though, Manager Ramdale, the contract positions we're talking about are full-time contract positions for the duration of the year in the operation of the trucks. Is that correct? I just want to be clear on that because that's my
Yes.
understanding.
Yes, Deputy Mayor Cabral and all of council, it is for the winter season. So we've got them at least until the end of March.
Thank you. So the trucks would be covered.
The,
All plow routes presently under the winter maintenance plan that was presented to council are covered, are they not?
if we were, through Deputy Mayor Cabral, if we were to have a snowfall on Monday at 1 p.m., yes, we have staff available, assuming they are not off sick or on vacation, yes, we do. If it were to happen Sunday, it's different.
Thank you. Mayor Coughlin.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, to General Manager Ramdeo. What is our full-time coverage on Saturdays and Sundays?
Through you, Deputy Mayor Cabral to Mayor Coughlin, generally 2.
Follow on?
Yeah.
And when you speak to 2, are these full-time operators or is this non-unionized staff members?
These, through you, Deputy Mayor Cabral to Mayor Coughlin, generally the 2 contracted staff.
Thank you. And then, so of the composition that we have today, looking at hiring 2 new full-time equipment operators, understanding that when we look to this, it looks like this is a position that is only vital to the municipality during the winter months. However, sitting at the table before, we've heard many people concerned about the level of drainage, ditch digging, shoulders. What would we now be able to do more of in the question? To be quite frank with council, when speaking with General Manager Ramdeo, and we know that we only do, is it 10 kilometers of ditches a year, which would take us, from what I understand, 70 years to get to all the ditches in the municipality. By putting these 2 new people in, we would then be able to increase the kilometers by 5 kilometers a season. Is that correct?
Through you, Deputy Mayor Cabral to Mayor Coughlin, actually with 1 it's 5, with 2 it's just over 9 kilometers. So we'll be going from 10 kilometers to about 19,700, 19.7 kilometers a year. And that is the intention. The intention is during the spring, summer, fall, these 2 persons would help us on ditching.
And thank you. I guess I completely understand and I can empathize that this is not a normal process. I do feel that this council will be required to catch up many departments, not just this department. I do see that this waiting until 6 weeks from now to be part of a bigger picture. I understand the benefit in that. I understand the regular process in that. However, understanding as well, when we did go out to hire full-time, contract plow operators, how many people did we have apply for the position?
Through you, Deputy Mayor Cabral to Mayor Coughlin. Speaking of the weekend positions, we did not get any applications.
Follow on? And thank you. So the reason not to go out for a contract position and to present this as full-time permanent is that these are difficult positions to fill even as contract positions. So to go out with anything less than a full-time complement, based on what we've just recently experienced, I don't see us being successful. I also don't want to be reactive in this. I know that it looks like we're already halfway through the winter, so whatever, we will deal with it next year. I don't want to deal with it next year. And it's not about meeting a minimum maintenance standard. I would never, and I hope it's not a suggestion that I feel that our fleets are not meeting that today. I'm talking about resident expectations, not the minimum provincial maintenance standard. Residents that are calling when we have a driver that gets out and starts the route at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, they're already angry that they haven't had an opportunity to get to work. We don't have enough drivers in order to maintain the residents' level of expectation, in my opinion. I am not arguing a minimum maintenance standard. I would never suggest that our corporation was ever not meeting that. It's residents have expectations and we need to meet them. And I see a solution. I see a solution that's in front of us that is essentially inevitable. It fixes not only our road plowing, but our ditches and draining, to be able to tell our agricultural community that, hey, we've heard you over the last 4 years and look what we're doing about it. We're going to be ready to go in the spring. I think it's just about us being on top of it. We've heard our residents, we've heard their concerns, whether it's ditching or road maintenance, we're not meeting their expectations, and this will allow us to do that.
Councillor Moore.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Deputy Mayor Cabral. I would like to ask CAO Schmidt then, did we meet the minimum standard, or did we actually do better than the minimum standard?
Sorry, CEO Schmidt.
Thank you. Through you, Deputy Mayor Cabral, to Councillor Moore. My apologies. Also, my camera's not on. My laptop unfortunately has died, so my apologies. We did meet the minimum maintenance standards as GM Ramdeo had indicated, and my understanding is we typically exceed the minimum maintenance standards. So I think what some of the conversation here is that managing expectations of residents, to be quite honest with you, is something that we also need to take into consideration here. So.
Follow on.
Yes, thank you so much, Deputy Mayor Cabral. I think it's just really important, and I'm not disputing whether or not we need positions. That's not what I'm going to do. And I would expect a really good presentation from General Manager Ramdeo at budget time to quantify what the request is, just like all the other department heads do. I think it's really important that council understands when you approve program changes and new hires, they have direct tax implications to your residents. And so we take a full calculation at budget time. And at the end of that, we say to the residents, your property taxes will go up 2% or 4%. But we look at it as a whole. We don't use this process right now to approve those new hires unless it's critical. So I just really want to make that clear when we make a decision. Thanks.
Councillor Garwood.
Through you, Deputy Mayor Cabral, to General Manager Ramdeo. I guess the first piece of my discussion here is more of a comment. I personally don't believe that we can wait till the snow melts. I think that's too late. The second piece is to General Manager Ramdeo specifically is a route. So we talk about 13 routes. How long does a route take to complete? Is it a full shift for one driver and a truck? Is it an hour? I'd appreciate some information. Thank you.
Through you, Deputy Mayor Cabral, to Councillor Garwood. An average route takes approximately 6.5 hours of driving, plus prep time before and completion time afterwards with the trucks. So a full shift.
It's good. Thank you, Manager Ramdale. I saved some comments to hear what other councillors had to say, but I do have some comments, and I've given this a great deal of thought. I'll tell you right now. Number one, we were presented as council with a winter maintenance plan. Number two, staff have an operational plan in place, and staff is not here pushing this motion forward. This motion is coming in a very irregular manner, and it speaks a lot to ditching, which takes place in the springtime. So my way of thinking is it doesn't matter how many drivers you have. Whoever's at the end of that route is not going to be happy most days if there's a heavy snowfall, because they're not going to get the service that the guy at the beginning of the route is going to be getting. So that's part and partial, just the way it tends to be. The other issue is, as Councillor Moore so aptly pointed out, is there is a budget coming, and council members, as far as I'm aware of, have not been privy to the draft budget yet. And we're being asked to move on hiring 2 people that, according to Manager Ramdale, will not be in a position to offer any kind of assistance until the end of January, probably into February. And I don't know about everybody else, but once March rolls around, other than the odd big snowfall that might happen, that's not really going to be too helpful, in my opinion. I think the other thing that we have to keep in mind is on the weekend, there may only be 2 people that are available, but that's been the case for years. That's not something new. Regular drivers have been called in on an as-needed basis. We have sufficient drivers according to Manager Ramdale's operational plan for the winter time. This is not coming from staff, certainly not from management. And I really don't see the need to push this forward when it will impact the budget for 2023. And it will also impact, as Councillor Moore aptly pointed out, other departments that may be looking for certain staffing or program changes that we may have to say no to in order to accommodate this hiring prematurely. I think another thing we have to keep in mind, I don't know about everybody else on council, but one of the things that I spoke to on the campaign trail was fiscal responsibility. And I don't see that here with this motion before council. The minimum maintenance standards are based on criteria set out by the provincial government. There are classifications of roadways, and I would hazard to guess that residential streets in residential areas actually could weight more than the roads that we have as our concessions and those more off-traveled roadways. I think we are putting staff in a compromising position where council is the one that is directing new hires. So I, unfortunately, will not be able to support this motion going forward for those reasons. Councillor Coghlan, or Mayor Coghlan.
Thank you. And through yourself to GM Ramdale, maybe. I understand that the process that you are quite intimate with as a past employee, while there has been how do I present this delicately? There has been changes. We have brought on a union. There are new expectations within the corporation that do not permit members of our staff who are non-unionized to jump in and just do a unionized position. So that in itself has created a void that we are now looking to fill. Also, I do understand that we have been bringing contract and that we've been bringing contract services and part-time employees in who were able to backfill the voids. And as General Manager Ramdale has pointed out, we had 0 people apply for these contract positions. So that is where those voids are coming from. So yes, you are correct. We have 24 hours to hit and maintain a level of standard. It's also putting more on. The operators are now doing more bits and pieces before and after to obtain that, and it's not getting done as quickly as it was. So yes, our level of standard was far above, but now residents are noticing that it is decreasing. And I think that we have established the reasons for it decreasing. We know that this is how we fix it. And I'm not suggesting that this is going to be perfect and no one's ever going to call and complain that we didn't do our jobs efficiently, but this will alleviate the stress that is on our current staff. This will alleviate concerns that residents do have. And like I said, it provides a proactive approach for what we know is going to be happening in the spring.
Thank you, Mayor Collin. I guess my last comment before the vote, if you don't mind, unless Councillor Fisher has something to say, is that I still feel that We provide superior service and I expect it to continue this year. It was an anomaly on the weekends. Our own staff that may have been on call may not have come in. However, this request is not coming from staff, and having been at prior meetings where staff had brought forth with a sense of urgency certain hires, this certainly does not fit that criteria, in my opinion. And if there's no further comments, we can take the vote, and I'll be asking for a recorded vote. Clerk Ainsworth?
Thank you through the chair. Once I call your name, if you could please unmute yourselves and state yes or no. So this would be to the main motion as you see listed on the agenda
Mute ourselves.
with the desk microphones. My apologies. Counselor Garwood,
Yes.
Counselor Alexander,
No.
Counselor Thompson,
Yes.
Counselor Moore,
No.
Counselor Fisher,
No.
Mayor Coughlin,
Yes.
and Deputy Mayor Cabral.
No.
That motion is lost.
Pass the chair back to Mayor Coughlin.
Thank you. Are there any other notices of motion at this time? Counselor Moore?
Thank you very much, Mayor Coughlin. I will be bringing a motion forward to the December 21st meeting. And that'll be regarding presenting a position to the residents regarding the aggregate interim control bylaw.
Thank you. Are there any other notices of motion? Seeing none, we will move on to items for future consideration. Oh, it's right here. That's why. May I have a mover and seconder for the item for future consideration? Moved by Counselor Garwood. Seconded by Counselor Alexander. And at this point, I will state the mover and now over back that. Why are you, sorry. He's got his hand up to do it now. I thought I was already done. Okay, fine. Over to you, Counselor Garwood.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. I just want to bring a item for future consideration forward. I will be presenting a notice of motion at the December 21st meeting of council to reactivate or reenact the Elmvale CRA. Currently, the Elmvale CRA is inactive. Other communities have CRAs, and I believe they're extremely beneficial for our municipality. So I will be bringing forward a motion at the next meeting of council to reactivate the Elmvale CRA.
All right, and comments? No, there is no comments. Don't try and trick me, George. All right, may I have a mover and seconder for the approval of the bylaws, please? Fisher and Moore. That bylaws listed herein be signed and sealed by the mayor and clerk. 2022-091, appoint municipal law enforcement officer and administrative assistant. 2022-092, amend bylaw. 2022-058, Cultural and Heritage Advisory Committee Terms of Reference. 2022-093, Public Committee Board Appointments for the 2022-2026 term. 2022-094, Appointment of Fence Viewers for the 2022 to 2026 term. 2022-095, Appointment of Livestock Valuer for the 2022 to 2026 term. 2022-096, Appointment for the Springwater Public Library Board term. 2022-097, appointment of the Committee of Adjustment for the 2022 to 2026 term. 2022 098, road naming and sunrise acquisitions, and bylaw 5000 365 ZB 2022 005 BMR Pro Elmville. All those in favor? And that is carried. And a mover and seconder for our confirmation bylaw. Moved by Councillor Garwood, seconded by Councillor Moore. That bylaw 2022 099 to confirm and adopt the proceedings of council in the regular meeting held on December 7th, 2022, listed here and by signed and sealed by the mayor and clerk. All those in favor? And that has carried. And adjournment. May I have a mover and seconder to adjourn the meeting? Deputy Cabral and Thompson. That the regular meeting of the Township of Springwater does now adjourn at 7:55 PM to meet again on regular session at December 21st, 2022 at 6:30 PM. All those in favor? And that is carried. Fantastic. No. Thank you.